Welcome to Game Plan with Coach, Texas versus Iowa State, 2017. Let's look at Iowa State's personnel. We'll start by looking at Matt Campbell. He's in his second year at Iowa State. He had a 3-9 record last year, but before that, he was 35-15 at Toledo with a 2-1 bowl record. He grew up in the Mount Union system. He played there. He went to Bowling Green as a GA, but then he came back to Mount Union. Anybody knows anything about Mount Union, they're a perennial Division III powerhouse. In fact, Campbell was a 3-time Division III champion and an All-American at Mount Union. So he's a good coach. In fact, he's so good, Urban Meyer wanted him at Ohio State. But he's happy where he's at as the head football coach of Iowa State. At quarterback, he's got Jacob Park, who's on the Maxwell watch list. Got a pretty good weapon at running back in David Montgomery. He's got some wiggle. He can get outside. He'll catch a ball out of the backfield. And he's a 2016 freshman All-American. And at receiver, you've got Alan Lazard, Hakeem Butler, Marchie Murdoch, and Trevor Ryan. And all of those guys are really good weapons that Iowa State will use in their passing game. Lazard and Montgomery are kind of bigger, stronger, more physical wide receivers, but they'll go deep. And then Ryan and Murdoch are more like a Wes Welker type of receiver, although none of them really have lightning fast speed. We'll start by looking at what Iowa State will do when they're in 11 personnel. So here's the keys to the game. The first one's to stop the run game. You saw Montgomery. He's a good back. He was a freshman All-American. We want to make him one-dimensional. Secondly, I haven't seen Parks really be pressured this year. I think there's the opportunity to get pressure on him. We can open up the blitz game and do that. He is on the Maxwell watch list. He spreads the ball around, and he's a good quarterback. But I think when he's pressured, he's going to have a hard time settling into his offense. And lastly, we need to eliminate the big play and make their offense drive the football. So let's take a look at what Iowa State likes to do offensively. Here you see the 2-by-2 formation with the tight end or fullback into the boundary. They really like to get into this formation and use him kind of as a lead blocker. They'll run some ISO, just getting big on the line of scrimmage, getting a double team on the nose, coming off the double team up into the backside backer, leading the fullback up on play side backer, giving the ball to Montgomery and trying to let him work through the middle of that defense. They'll run play action off of that too, especially in the trips formation, trying to get isolated on one-on-one on that single receiver to the field side. They'll also run this little option look. They're not trying to get Park out really free and let him run the ball. They're really trying to get the ball to Montgomery and let him get in space. He's big. He's 222 pounds, hard to bring down for a defensive back. If they can get him outside of your backers, let those defensive backs try and go one-on-one with him. They've got a good matchup, so they're going to try and get him out there, and they've had some success doing that. So that's basically the run game out of this look. In the pass game, they'll do this little quick where they motion the slot receiver back into the formation, start off with a little bit of an offset look, and then throw that quick and try and get him, once again, a big body up to the second level on a defensive back. They also like the sail look. They have the X and Z receivers running a corner route and then flats by the tight end and the slot receiver. They've had some success doing that. Here they'll complete a pretty decent gain to the field side to that corner route. And you'll see it again here. They're going to complete the pass for about a 20-yard gain, this time over to the boundary side. So, how do we stop it? Now, first and foremost, I want to take away that ISO. So I'm going to move my nose into A-gap to the tight end side. This will do a couple of things. One, it's going to relieve any run responsibilities from the middle linebacker. And you'll see Ford is in A-gap, have a Minihue in B-gap, and then Hughes on the outside there. He doesn't have any run responsibility to the boundary side. Got A-gap, and then also Malik can play fast on that little option play. So it's really good for stopping the run. And it's going to set up some blitzes that we can do in the passing game as well. In coverage, I'm going to go with a 2-read look to the boundary side. Really, the safety's just looking to make sure that tight end doesn't go vertical. I'm not too worried about him in the passing game. And then, obviously, we'll be manned up with the cornerback on the receiver out there. If number 2 doesn't go vertical, he'll kind of slow play and come up on that. To the field side, we're going to go with a cover 2 look. One of my linebackers is free to blitz. The other one will play like a low hole, making sure anything comes inside. He's got Then we'll have a curl zone out of the nickel, a deep flat taking away the corner with the cornerback. And then, of course, you'll have DeShon Elliott or Brandon Jones over the top. I really like this boundary safety blitz. You can see that it can create a lot of havoc. We'll be manned up to the boundary side with the wide receiver. On that tight end, the B-backer is going to drop into coverage. He's got to run vertical with him if he goes vertical, but I'm not really worried about that. And then he'll help on that corner route or deep route or anything underneath to that receiver. But what I really like about this is you got a lot of cross action, a lot of things going across the face of the lineman, and you can see you got Gary Johnson and DeShon Elliott really got a good path to the quarterback on. Another blitz that works well out of this package, you can just bring Malik off the edge, reduce the end down into A-gap, bring Malik around the tackle, and play 2-read to the boundary and still have that cover 2 look to the field side. And then finally, if I want to get frisky and bring everybody, I can do this. Here I'm bringing 6. I got 2-read. I got help over the top to the field side. Once again, not worried about the tight end too much, so I can just man up on the boundary side. Crash down just like I did on that blitz to Malik, and then bring Gary Johnson over the top through B-gap. We'll also take and do trips into the boundary of that same look with that tight end kind of offset. Out of this formation, they really like to run the ISO. You can see it here. It's the same thing that they ran when they had 2x2 set. Here's a good example of the ISO. Trips to the boundary, and off that they'll do a little play action look, trying to get that receiver manned up to the field side. Iowa does a pretty good job of coverage right here. So here's how I'm going to stop it. First, I want to try and bracket that receiver to the field side. We'll have DeShon Elliott over there, and whichever cornerback is playing the field side, Chris Boyd, Holton Hill, somebody else, and we're going to bracket him. I'm going to stay in base. I will this time move my nose to the field side. I think it creates a better angle for the linebackers to play this. Really, the nose has to fight through that double team and try and penetrate A-gap, along with Malcolm Roach trying to get into B-gap. So Malcolm Roach and Poona Ford will both be looking for that cutback in the backside A and B gap. And then you want your linebackers really to pursue, find open grass, and get in there. Malik has A gap to the play side. Gary Johnson doesn't have any gap responsibilities here, so he's free to roam. If he cuts back far enough, that field side safety, here it's DeShon Elliott, can come down and clean up the mess. Then they'll get into this trips to the field. They probably like this better than trips to the boundary. One of their favorite plays out of this is really stretch. Has him throw the ball a whole lot out of this. So they're just going to look for a seam inside. If it's not there, they'll get around the corner, and they'll just take whatever the defense gives them. They also like this option to the field side. Once again, not trying to get Park free, but just trying to get the ball out to Montgomery and let him make a play in space. So in order to stop this, I really want to make it difficult to run the ball here. They throw the ball out of this, but not much. And then I have some blitz packages I can throw in here too, but I won't go over those for the sake of time. We're going to move the end from the boundary side over to the field side. So we'll have him in a 3 technique there. And then Malcolm Roach will be in a 5 technique, and that makes it a really difficult block for that end. And hopefully he can get some penetration, make that tight end double team him, which will free up Malik to pursue. I don't think that guard could block him. Then you got your backside. Poona Ford should fight across the face of that center, and then Gary Johnson should go with the flow and look for any cutback lanes, spill those. Nahshon Hughes can chase it down from the backside. The final thing they like to do is they like to get into this little trips to the field side with the tight end back to the boundary. And they'll flip the formation. I like it better to the field side with that tight end the boundary. I think that zone read they run out of this is pretty good play. It's one of the tougher ones to defend, especially with the trips to the field side, having to worry about the pass there. So here's the zone read I was talking about, and you'll see a picture of them running it. Also, they'll run these little quick screens. They'll run a little fake off of that, looks something like that. Here's a couple examples. Here's an example of the fake. I don't actually have the quick screen on film, but you'll see they're faking the quick screen there, and then they're going to run a little drag and a go route. Once again, Iowa State does a good job of defense. And final thing they like to do out of that is run the shallow cross with the post wheel coming off of it, really trying to hit that post or that wheel route. Wheel route's a big play. You'll see it from a different angle here. You can see the post and the wheel there with the shallow cross underneath. And we're going to defend it basically like we did the 2x2 to the boundary. The only difference is now I'm going to bring my corner over. I'm going to play man-to-man cover 1 underneath and let the linebackers play the run, and I got the 1 safety over the top. And I can really run any of the blitz packages I showed you before out of this. You know, you do have the safety over the top that's going to help eliminate that big play. I need to account for Montgomery in the passing game. He can hurt you. He's got 10 receptions for 99 yards. If you don't cover him or if you forget about him, he'll make a big play. So we don't want to do that. And that's basically all they do out of 11 personnel. So now let's transition and see what they do out of 10 personnel. When they do go 10 personnel, they want to throw the ball, and they'll get into this trips formation. They'll do some stuff out of that. Here they motion to the trips. And they're just going to fake a little screen to the field side, then run Montgomery back to the boundary on a screen. And get pretty decent yardage there. Let's play their trips to the field again. And Park's going to change the play. They're going to run a little shallow cross with a post wheel, just like you saw before. He really wants to hit that post, but he's going to check down to the shallow. This time they're going to motion to the trips. They're going to run a flood. But the interesting part about this is they're going to run that backside post to the boundary. Watch the back. He's going to run a wheel. Your linebackers can't lose him. Make sure that they pick him up and don't let him get a big play. And they'll run a bunch. They run a stick to the bunch side here, but they're really just trying to isolate that receiver to the boundary and get him open. And they'll go 2x2. It's really no different than when they ran 2x2 with the tight end to the boundary. Here they're going to go option. They pick up about 10 yards on this. It's a good play for them. And this is a little play action off of a zone read look. Safety's going to bite hard, and it's a 74-yard touchdown pass. Real easy pass, and nobody's going to catch him. So defensively against this, I'm going to go with a cloud look. Basically, that backside corner's man on the isolated receiver. To the field side, Malik Scott, the low hole. He's going to have to run with number 3 if he's vertical. P.J. Locke will have hook to curl, and he'll run with number 2 if he's vertical. And then we've got the same thing out there in the flat. If 1's vertical, Locke will have to expand to the flat if 2 goes outside. Brought the boundary corner to the boundary hash. And he's going to check number 3 vertical to help Malik. If number 3 is not vertical, he can go back to the boundary side, check that. And if nothing's there, he can go down and rob anything across the middle. One thing that concerns me here is that little inside zone play. If they block it right, they could have a big play. That's why I got my nose in A gap opposite the back. Whichever side the back goes to, the nose will go opposite that. Take A and B gap away to that side, and we're in good shape on the outside. And of course, they'll go 2x2 in 10 personnel as well. This is a little post wheel. They sneak the back out. Get a catch there for a first down gain. Makes it 2nd and short. And to defend this, really, there's nothing special. It's just the base defense. Quarters coverage. You got your nose to the field side A gap. You're just going to play defense, let your players make plays. The boundary linebacker is going to have that A gap, and then the play side linebacker is actually free to roam here. And he's going to be the low hole defender, and then the nickel has hook to curl there. He'll have to run with any verticals by number 2. Brandon Jones has number 2 vertical, and then the outside receiver's covered by the cornerback, whether he goes vertical or stays in. And then it's a 2 read to the backside. And that's basically it. The complete blitz package I showed you before is in for this as well. And you can compensate with that the same exact way you did when the tight end was to the boundary. You just have to worry about number 2. To the boundary side, they're making a play. I wasn't worried about that tight end when he was in, but I am worried about this guy making a play, so we'll have to make sure we have good coverage on him. And these next few things I'm just going to show you. I'm not going to get into detail on how to defend them, what the defense looks like, but I just want you to be aware of them. Now they're going to go empty, and they run this little reverse pivot on the back. You see the linebacker loses his inside leverage, and they get a big completion. You'll see it again. Same play. They're going to motion to the empty set this time. Little reverse pivot. The linebacker maintains leverage and makes the play. Here they're going to motion to quads. You watch the most inside receiver to the field side. He's going to give him a little move, and nobody's going to catch him. That's why I'm not going with cover 0 against them. And when they do empty it out, they'll still run the ball. This is a little jet sweep action. Getting the ball to their running back who's lined up in the slot. These last two plays are really just going to show you what they do in the red zone. They have these big physical receivers. This is just a little fade. He's very athletic. He can get up there, and it's like a rebound in basketball. And this one's going to be a little square out. He'll use his body to almost block him out like a rebound. Little pivot route. Touchdown. And there you have it. That's Iowa State's offense in a nutshell. Looking at it, I think the team has a pretty good chance of playing good defense, creating turnovers. I don't think they have anybody that's going to beat us deep or hurt us offensively. As long as we stick with our assignments, I think athletically we can stay with them. I think we have the great opportunity to pressure the quarterback, confuse the offense, get them off their rhythm. If we just stick with the priorities, stop the run, pressure the quarterback, and then eliminate the big play. So that'll do it for game plan. I'd like to thank you for tuning in. And I'll see you guys on Thursday. Hook 'em horns.